birds roam around, they're getting it from the wild birds, and you're saying that they're not.
What I'm saying is that's a really good point that they're making. So there's like 250 species of birds that have been associated with shedding or being infected with Newcastle's disease. Pigeons, doves, crows, sparrows, those birds potentially can spread it. That's just we just know that.
Right.
But with the ones that they've been sampling in the areas around these infected premises, they're not finding it in those birds that they're looking at. Now that doesn't mean I'm saying that they're not doing it.
Yeah.
It just means that they're not finding it in those wild bird populations. I think the biggest risk is if you have people come onto your premises that have been in contact with other birds that aren't doing biosecurity premises. People that go to like a feed store and they buy their chicken feed and other people, that have been in that feed store with their feet and everything. We pick it up on the ground. I think those are the big risk factors. Right. Making sure that people that have been around chickens in a lot of different places, not letting them in with my chickens. That's what I would suggest.
So are you guys more focusing on chickens or people that, because like we just have pigeons, we don't have chickens or anything.
So any birds are what we focus on, and then you'll see from us we take pretty extreme measures for biosecurity before we come onto a premises. I have very 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 restrictive protocols that say if I go look at a premises, like I looked at a premises yesterday, and I looked at those birds, and I don't think they weren't showing to me what looks like Newcastle's disease. But if I go look at a premises where we think that they have Newcastle's disease, then I have to wait for my lab results to come back before I can go to another premises. We have to prove that I was not on a premises that had Newcastle's disease before I can go to another place.
Now, you say,
because they don't want me spreading it around, right?
Now, say you test our birds and they come out negative, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Can we like at least be rest assured, like, okay, we're good, like that we're not gonna have people knocking on our door? Because every day we're anxious, like, we're stressing out here.
So, I tell everybody the truth. This is not secret to me, right? There's no secret information. I tell you just as much as I know about all this. I would say no. If you have birds and you've let them test them, then when they do more surveillance over time, let's say a month from now or whatever, they may want to come back and test your birds again because they know you have birds. And also because we have to test a lot of birds and find no disease before we can release the quarantine. Am I explaining that? When I was out here the second time, we were trying to release the Muscoy quarantine area that they had at that time. And they told me, they said, Tim, we got to test 76 or 100 premises in Muscoy before we can release the quarantine. So we had to find, and it didn't work because it changed since then because Muscoy is still under quarantine, right? But I was knocking on doors saying, hey, can I test your birds? People said, you were just out here 3 weeks ago, or you were just out here 2 weeks ago. And I said, well, we still need to do these surveillance tests to assure that there isn't any disease in the area. I mean, and until we get enough people to volunteer to let me test the birds, then we can't release the quarantine. So I still think that people might make requests to test your birds for part of that surveillance thing going on. That would be maybe.
Okay. Yeah, the only thing is if you guys do, you guys have to let us know because I have small children. And
right.
They're very like attached to the birds. Like my little babies fly with their birds with him and
when I was out here one time and I was depopulating birds, it's not lost on me when the owner's crying and these are my birds and the kids come over here and they see them but the birds are sick and they're dying, it is unpleasant.
But I also saw yesterday some of the way that they kill these birds are really inhumane. Like I saw one guy like stepping on the head of the rooster and just basically letting him die like that. Like, do you guys have protocol on how you guys? Because I have the video. Like, he was
one of us guys.
Yeah, he grabbed the rooster, stepped on his neck, and he was just letting him like suffocate like that. And he had a pellet gun in his hand. Like, I mean, if you guys have to kill our birds, we want it to be done the most humane way, like not shooting them with pellet guns, because that just.
If I make a complaint through my group that you guys saw that, would you talk to somebody on the phone about that? Because that's wrong. Because that is absolutely completely wrong.
I have the video. People are putting it on Facebook because they videotape people depopulating their birds, and the way that's why everyone's scared. Like, okay, if you're gonna take our birds,
right,
at least like, put them out of their misery right away. Don't shoot them with a pellet gun, let them run around, then step on them. Like, that's very sad. Like, I can't, like.
I couldn't watch that either. So I'll tell you the way that I did it, okay? Because I had a crew that I ran this with. So we would take a big trash can, and we put carbon dioxide, CO2 in it, and it's running. We get that thing full of CO2, and so we catch a bird, catch a chicken, we open the top and we drop the chicken in there. Usually within about 6 to 8 seconds, that bird is unconscious. Mm-hmm. It's not dead yet, but it's completely asleep and it's not aware of what's going on. And so we open that up and we put. It kind of depends on how big the birds are, right? So if I have real little birds, I can put more in a barrel, and then I fill it up, and then what I do is I keep filling the bag full of CO2, and then I pull it out, I tie it, and then I let it sit there and I watch, and I make sure that nothing's ever moving inside of there. But that was my protocol, and it was always effective, because those birds were always unconscious within like 6 or 8 seconds.
Yeah.
And they don't flop and flail around. That's the way that I did it.
Yeah,
I didn't let anybody break their necks. I didn't let.
Shooting them with pellet guns, like they're not gonna die with a pellet. That's suffering,
Some birds, I've been on premises where we can't catch them with nets, and in order to get all the birds on those premises, they had to use pellet rifles to try to catch those last few ones. But on the premises I was on, that was our last possible hope. We sat there and worked together and moved to try to catch chickens, because I think it's way more humane to catch them and put them in the barrel so they go to sleep pretty quickly.
Got it. Okay.
So I'm going to make a complaint about that through my group, that if that's going on.
Yeah, I have the actual video. I'll show you right now.